What happens when your cell body concentrations get messed up? Lots of bad things. So if you've taken any sort of science courses, you've probably been introduced to the idea of osmosis. And that shit doesn't go away. At the very least, cellular biology, osmosis is very important in a lot of things. So a while ago, I made a video about acute hyponatremia, which is kind of the extreme end of osmotic disruption, but there's some other things. So ideally, your cells are in what is known as an isotonic state, which means while there is water and ions flowing in and out of the cell, it's kind of at a constant rate, so the cell volume is in equilibrium, meaning the cell size does not change, because it is exactly happy where it wants to be. We love that. However, sometimes we can disrupt that equilibrium, and that can cause problems. So if your cell is not in an isotonic state, it's in either a hypo or hypertonic state. Hypotonic, such as the case with acute hyponatremia, is when the concentration of ions inside your cell, so like sodium, chlorine, potassium, calcium, all of that, when the concentration of ions is higher inside your cell than it is outside your cell. And therefore, if the concentration of ions is higher in the cell, the concentration of water will be lower in the cell. So there will be less water inside your cell than outside of the cell. Therefore, causing a state of disequilibrium. And water does not like that. Water wants to be at equilibrium, so it will enter the cell. Now, if there is too much water in a biological system like the human body, it can cause some problems such as the acute hyponatremia. But if you're talking about just cells, not like a body system and all that, what happens is water enters the cell membrane and the cell increases in size to a point where it eventually bursts. And you kind of need your cells, so ideally you don't want your cells to explode. Now, we can also have the opposite of that, called hypernatremia. So, instead of being in an isotonic or hypotonic state, we have the hypertonic state, where the concentration of ions outside the cell is higher than the concentration of ions inside the cell. Therefore, the concentration of water inside the cell is higher this time, and the concentration of water outside is lower. So that means the water wants to leave the cell to once again establish equilibrium. So the result of that is water leaves the cell and cell volume shrinks, causing your cell to shrivel up into a sad prune. And again, you need your cells, so you don't really want raisin cells. That's not a good thing. I saw recently come up on TikTok where a kid, I'm not sure if he died or just got very sick from drinking a disgusting amount of soy sauce. And if you've ever had soy sauce, you know that that shit is salty. So when he drank it, basically the opposite effect of the acute hyponatremia of drinking too much water happened, and he basically just speed ran all of dehydration. He drank so much soy sauce that his cells basically, so the ion concentration on the outside of his cells was so high that all the water was like, we're going over there, and his cells shriveled. So yeah, water and osmosis, very important. Way more important than you think. You always hear like, oh, you need to drink water. But you also can't drink too much water. You also don't drink that much soy sauce. Please. Chemistry.